Hi everyone, this is Shantae, aka Shanteezy. I'm here with my analysis today. It is Tuesday, May 12th, 2020, and there's a lot to unpack. I hope you guys have a great Tuesday. I hope you guys had a drink or whatnot. Your kids are tucked in bed. There's a lot to unpack if you guys didn't watch the news. If you guys are watching, that's good. If you're not, tune in later. Okay, so here we go. The coronavirus. Got to start off with that first because that's the major thing that's going on in the country. That's why we're home and that's why everything is closed. All right, so you start off with the federal response. Of course, our stats show that we got 1.3 million cases and almost 1.4, and there is almost 83,000 deaths, around 80,003 deaths in the country. And there's no mass testing once again. Even though somebody yesterday we celebrated testing 2.7% of the American population, which that is extremely, extremely bad for testing. But I'm gonna get into later on that when it came to the hearing. So there was a press briefing today. I took notes. And this press briefing by the new press secretary, like the fourth one, or people exaggerate, like the 100th one, Kayleigh McEnany. For those who don't know who Kayleigh McEnany is the former spokesperson, former spokesperson, for the RNC. She was also a former commentator for CNN as a Republican strategist. So technically her role is a Republican strategist. And she has a degree from Harvard Law. And she served as his press secretary, and she's his loyal supporter. So today she conducted one of her second or third press briefings, and she started off by saying testing is higher than the per capita than South Korea. Get into that in a little bit. Donald Trump supports the underserved communities, and they're delivering their economic support. I think they said $12 billion to hospitals. And so she had her little statements. So reporters basically questioning about the testing, because Donald Trump said they prevailed on testing, like I said yesterday, even though they tested 2.7, almost 3% of the population, which is extremely low. It's reported that they asked about the testing, and she said, she quoted Dr. Fauci's response, which she really didn't really have her own response. She responded to Dr. Fauci's response. Yeah, okay. Also, she was asked about the launch of, relaunching of like schools and the benchmarks and everything. And then she said the CDC guidelines are coming soon. They should have been came. Those guidelines were actually shelved. It was 17-page document of how to reopen the economy in different phases, and they were shelved by the administration themselves, by her boss. So let's get that straight. She was also asked about the vaccine. Will it be available to all Americans? And, will it be affordable? Will it be free? Basically, would it be free? Her response, she really didn't provide a persuasive response. It was very vague. I couldn't remember, but it was very vague. Also, she was asked about, Donald Trump partnership with the pharmaceutical companies for the vaccine. Would that be in mass production and blah, blah, blah. She said yes, which we all know that's not true. More stuff. So another reporter asked about why Trump is not following the guidelines, why he's not wearing a mask, why is also he's telling states to liberate, states like Michigan, states like Virginia, states like Wisconsin, states like Pennsylvania, and they're all conducting all these protests to get out of their stay-at-home orders, which is actually saving them, and liberate Minnesota. It's actually trying to liberate them, but they don't seem to care. And Donald Trump is basically undermining the scientists that he worked with, that he has on these things. And she said, she used the Trump playbook on this question, which I'm like, why nobody didn't stop her. McEnany used a Trump dubious rumors. There are consequences of not reopening the government. According to 8 medical groups that she said, which she didn't specify the 8 medical groups, substance abuse, and also cancer and suicide and cardiac arrest. If the government don't reopen, these things can happen. People can subject to substance abuse, which they can kill themselves, or they can develop cancer at home, which I'm like, what the hell? Or have a cardiac arrest, have chest problems, and suffer from a cardiac arrest. According to 8 medical groups that she did not name. That's a lie. Ain't no goddamn way it says if you're not doing stay-at-home orders, you will get cancer, you will have a cardiac arrest. It's a possibility you can be suicidal, but doesn't mean you commit suicide. Because I heard about staying at home, people are getting abused, like domestic violence abuse, or child abuse, or sexual abuse. I heard that was happening. But I did not hear about people committing suicide because they're staying home. People are actually, when they don't want to stay home, people actually are going outside without a mask, or visiting their families, or visiting their friends, or having sex with their boyfriends or girlfriends or whatever. Didn't hear about people committing suicide at home. But, okay. The lies. Also, McEnany was asked, why was Donald Trump celebrating the testing of 2.7 hear this, of the population? She replied about the strategy. She basically replying and saying that, oh, the admiral was, our testing is high and blah, 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 blah. They lied about testing. I'm like, girl, just stop. You're being exposed. Your boss is just bad, just really bad. And she was also asked about why is Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx are not at these briefings with her, because they are the scientists on the task force. And she said, well, I meet with the task force every day and to hear about this stuff, and Dr. Fauci was testifying all day. She didn't really get into Dr. Birx because she's doing what her boss told her. And I'm just like, just stop with the fucking lying, because you promised the day when you said you were not going to lie to the American people, and you end up lying to the American people anyway. Like, you lie up there every day like your boss lied. And everybody else that worked for him that lied. And it was asked about the guidelines of the restaurants and the hair salons. She pivots back to the stay-at-home orders will cause death. And also asked about the relief money, because there was other stuff on the asked about the relief money, and she said, well, Donald Trump wants a payroll tax for employers, and so people get a pay raise during a pandemic, get a pay raise. So basically, no relief checks. They didn't talk about no relief checks when we're in a recession leading into a depression, and you talking about people getting payroll tax so they can get higher salaries. That don't make any sense when you can't be around people. And the last thing from that press conference was about two more things actually. So she was also asked about the claim she was asked about wearing a mask. Why she's not wearing a mask in the press briefing room, and every reporter in that press briefing room is wearing a mask. She said she's distant from anybody. She's distant from everyone else. She don't need a mask. I'm distant from the president, quote unquote. I'm distant from the vice president. Distance from the... You're in the press briefing. You should wear a mask. Your little droplets can give people coronavirus. It's already a lot of the staff in the White House, which is not that many staff anyway, have been tested. Like probably a dozen been tested for coronavirus. And you don't want to wear a mask? Okay. now the actual last thing. Someone from One American News basically asked about the Obama investigation, which is called the Obamagate. And she basically explained about the FISA court thing and how Trump was unmasked in 2016 and the Russian collusion. We all know about what happened in 2016 with the Russian interference. There was a whole 2-year investigation. The Deputy Attorney General at the time, Rod Rosenstein, I don't know if he still is, because they're always firing people in that administration. I never see so many people walk in and out the doors like a revolving door. Hired Robert Mueller to investigate the 2016 Russian interference. And out of that investigation, multiple people in that campaign, in Trump's campaign, was indicted or in jail or about to go to jail. And what's his face? Michael Flynn may not be going to jail, which I think he should go to jail, because he was the one that tried to establish back channels during the time when President Obama was still in office after 2016 election. Like, you want to make up this Obamagate. Like, I am so sick of this administration trying to distract and deflect, because right now they are so fucked up. Like, they fucked up with this pandemic. They messed up with so much stuff. Like, it's absolutely crazy. Like, I don't get it how you mishandle a pandemic when a playbook was left for you. But you come up with all this other shit talking about what President Obama did and what President Obama did this and did that. During his presidency, there were like 2 or 3 pandemics, but the difference is it didn't keep people at home. It didn't keep people masked. And people could still be around their families. And you had a response team that respond to this, that emerged out of this, so we can get a handle on our pandemic, so this won't blow out of control. We didn't have to worry about shit like that. We didn't have to worry about the economy going crazy. We didn't really suffer a recession under President Obama. If anything, when he came in with a $1.3 trillion deficit that he had to inherit, and he flipped that and turned that around. So if anything, Donald Trump inherited a good economy. He messed that up. So right now, we in deep shit because of the incompetence out of this White House. Moving right along. There was a Senate hearing today. One of the committees, I think the Health and Education Committee met today. And there was some questionings. Who was questioned was Dr. Redingfield of the CDC down in Atlanta, Dr. Fauci, and the Admiral. And it was another person. And the questions, a lot of good questions came up. Tim Kaine basically showed a presentation. He questioned about the testing, and, a lot of the stuff was about testing. So he questioned about testing. And Dr. Fauci basically responded to him. I don't really have the full context. You could watch the whole hearing, because the hearing was pretty lengthy. It was like about 3.5, almost 4 hours long. I was tired. I was trying to write as much stuff up as I can. Also, senators, there were some senators that made dubious comments, like Rand Paul. He basically made a comment about, I quote, to Dr. Fauci, "I don't understand. You're not the end of it all. I don't think you're the one person that gets to make decisions." Because Rand Paul was talking about how Children should go to school. School is important. You know, even if we don't have a vaccine, it's a silver lining to all of this bullshit. Keep in mind, Rand Paul is a medical doctor. I think he specializes in ophthalmology, but he's a medical doctor. It is no fucking way in hell that comment should come from a medical doctor to ask another medical doctor to say to a medical doctor that you're not the end of it all. You don't make the decision. So Dr. Fauci responded, I have never made myself out to be the end of it all and only voice in this. I am a scientist, a physician, and a public health official. He is. He served under 6 presidents. He served under Reagan, Bush Sr., Bill Clinton, Bush Jr., President Obama, and this guy. He does not care about political affiliations. We don't even know if he's a Democrat or Republican or independent. We do know he's a smart epidemiologist, straight out of New York. Got that Brooklyn accent. You hear that accent all day, every day from him. And, you know, Dr. Fauci knows his shit. The man worked on the AIDS crisis back in the 1980s when I was a baby. So, of course, he knows what the fuck he's saying. So, Rand Paul asking these dubious, dumbass questions that he doesn't know the answer to or have an idea, he just needs to shut the fuck up. Pretty much. Sorry for the cursing, but I just hate stupid ass comments like that. Also, Susan Collins answered another asked another dumbass question about dentists and they're losing money and how they're gonna, there are people getting root canals, they might have to get the extractions, like how that's gonna affect people. Well, it can affect people a lot because people can die. It's an airborne disease that came from a bat. Spread it around the world. It went from China, then it traveled from other countries like in Africa, India, Australia. It's all over. No country's exempt from the coronavirus. Like, no country at all. Also, Senator Longfur of Georgia, the lady that made money off the coronavirus with stocks and shit like that, blamed the media for over characterizing the virus and all this shit and blah 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 blah. Don't have time. I don't have time for most of these Republicans on in this Congress, Senate, or House. But the one Republican that answered the question that probably stroked Trump's ego, I didn't look on Twitter, but he's stroking ego, was Romney. Romney basically said to the Admiral, I don't understand the testing. I don't understand, how you can celebrate testing 2.7 of the American population when that's not even a third of the population. How you celebrating that? And South Korea has a less population in America, and they tested over 10,000 people per day. Mass testing. The United States have the capacity to do that. But Donald Trump is not invoking the Defense Production Act. He invoked it on the meat packing industry so he could get his meat. But you're not going to invoke it on testing. Testing is way more important than anything itself. That's how we know how we can combat this thing. Besides staying quarantined and staying social distance, there's a lot of people that can't social distance in their apartment or in their house because they have more than 2 to 3 people that live with them. And some of them are essential workers. And who's to say they don't know how they contract this virus, because you still don't know how you can contract this thing. So Romney was right to ask that question. Also, Bernie Sanders got on them about the testing. Also, Senator Murphy basically called Trump's guidelines and the CDC guidelines criminally negligent. oh, let me just use I don't know if I have the right term, criminally vague, because it's like a mixed messaging. It's like you want people to wear their mask and want people to quote unquote social distance, but you're letting the defy the social distancing order. I mean, it's kind of like, it doesn't sound right. That's all I'm saying. But that's just my thing. And then now Cuomo's briefing, they didn't show too much of Cuomo's briefing because of the whole entire Senate hearing. And Cuomo basically is coming up with different metrics of how to reopen the state. I know I live in New York City, so we didn't even meet the other 3 metrics of the 7 metrics due to our cases being really high and our hospitalizations still, like, they're trying to decline, but it's still kind of high. So I don't mind staying in my house till probably July at this point of time. I mean, this is what it is. And he's also asking for $61 billion from the government, which he has every right to, because we contribute the most money compared to his facts and compared to data. New York State contributes almost $30 billion to the government since, I believe, 2015. So we are entitled to that goddamn $61 billion because we need to pay our teachers, pay our firefighters, pay our police officers, pay the people that work in the public hospitals. Basically, all our public servants. They need to get paid. They're the ones that are out here doing it, making things move still, while we're at home practicing social distancing and being quarantined. So that's what it is. Now with these cases, I think there's a new case of Breonna Taylor. So Breonna Taylor is the 26-year-old young lady from Louisville. I believe Louisville is in Kentucky. I'm not quite as sure. Was an inspiring nurse, but she was an EMT worker. And she was shot and killed in her home because they was looking for a person that did not live there, that I guess that had a drug arrest. I don't know. But the boyfriend, who was a licensed gun owner that lived with her, basically shot at the cops because they was trying to go in her house because it was an unwanted arrest. I mean, like, you shot this woman in the comfort of her own home. She wasn't even there, and the person that they were looking for don't even live in that complex. So basically, you shot her for no reason. And now it's a lawsuit. And I believe it's the same lawyer that's working on Ahmaud Arbery's case. I'm not quite as sure, but now there's a lawsuit. Her mother is distraught, like completely distraught. The sister's been posting online, like, and everybody, it's an outrage. Like, this thing happened like a couple weeks ago. And the reason why it was not on the news because of the coronaviruses. Like, I am so sick of us being killed. I'm really tired. I'm tired of hearing this shit. I've been tired of hearing this shit since I was a little kid. Now I'm more tired as I'm an adult. Like a 34-year-old woman. And I got to still hear about my people being killed for no reason by cops and by scary-ass white people. I mean, come on. Like, are we serious? Even killings of Latino people. Are you fucking serious? Like, you that infuriated of us? Like, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Like, are you that scared? Are you really scared? Like, seriously? Because it makes absolutely no sense. Like, I just wish, like, you know, these white people will stop with their bullshit. I'm so serious. I'm so sick of hearing this shit. I really am. I'm so sick of hearing my people being killed. Like, I'm tired. I'm not going to speak so much more about this because it's going to make me mad throughout this whole video, and I don't want to get mad. So on to politics. The Supreme Court had an oral argument about releasing Trump's tax returns. It was a very contentious one. I didn't really get too much hear about it, but all I know is it's like Some of the Republican justices that was appointed by Republican president seem like they want to stand by Donald Trump of not releasing his tax returns and taking away that power from Congress to subpoena his tax returns, which he should have released them when he was running for president. Every candidate releases their tax returns. Joe Biden just released 21 years of his tax returns. Kamala Harris released about 15 years. Bernie Sanders released about 10 years. All candidates release so much documents, so much tax documents, but Donald Trump. Because we all know he didn't pay his taxes, especially those who live in New York City. You already know what time it is with the Trump administration. Let's be real. Or with Donald Trump all in his own. Like, we warned the whole country not to vote for this man, and they did because they believe his lies. And look where we now. We're stuck at home in May because we can't be around people. So hopefully we get more out of that tomorrow, out of that oral argument. And then you got Mitch McConnell's comment. So he appeared on Trump campaign's internet virtual conversation roundtable with Laura Trump, which is the daughter-in-law of Donald Trump, but she's the wife of Eric Trump. And he basically said, well, President Obama is to blame for the pandemic. We all know that's true, not true. And he didn't leave a playbook. He didn't leave anything for the Trump administration. Yes, he did. He left a 69-page playbook on how to handle a pandemic. The Obama administration handled 2 pandemics, and that included H1N1 and the Ebola crisis. And the Ebola crisis was even more deadlier because that emerged from a whole nother country. It did not spread to the whole entire world. And it spread throughout the whole nation. It was contained. It was under control by President Obama's competent team. And that included his vice president, who's running for president. So there you have it. And then he also made a comment about it was classless of President Obama to speak about Donald Trump and how he handled a pandemic. If anyone is classless, excuse me, it will be Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is classless when he changed the Senate rules. And before that, he was classless when he didn't hold a meeting with Merrick Garland. He was classless to rush Neil Gorsuch and Brett Kavanaugh on the Supreme Court without a proper freaking investigation. He was classless to put multiple unexperienced young men, young far-right conservative white men on the freaking courts. The lower courts and the circuit courts. And he's classless now trying to do that same shit. He is classless when he's trying not to give us any more relief money or any states like New York, California, Connecticut, Massachusetts, and New Jersey any money. So if anybody is classless, it's Mitch McConnell. And we don't want to get into the Trumps because they are below classless. They are trash. Next, presidential politics. Again, Joe Biden heads on according to a MU law poll for Wisconsin, Biden is 3 points ahead of Trump, which we're not surprised. It might fluctuate depending on the flow. But we do know that Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, the representative of the 14th congressional district in New York, uptown in the Bronx, will serve on Biden's climate policy committee. And it's a major, huge step for the progressive wing of the Democratic Party, because the progressive wing has been critical of moderate candidates and centrist candidates and even liberal candidates and blah, 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 blah. But in order to build a coalition, you have to widen your base. And I think she's doing the right thing. I never had a problem with her. I actually like her. I just didn't like some of the outlets she used to interview with, like TYNT and Rising and, you know, the Jacobian and the Intercept. But I actually like her personally. I like her, and I like Ayanna Presley out of the whole squad. I actually like those two. And I'm sort of like feeling Ilhan Omar. So like I personally like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, and I think she has a bright future ahead of her. I think she could be a senator one day if Chuck Schumer decides to step down, or, you know, she could even serve in a presidential cabinet because she has that touch of where she can talk to people, which is good, and it's good for Joe Biden. It's very good for Vice President Biden. In terms of Kamala Harris and Ayanna Presley, they had an IG Live, and they talked about the coronavirus and the effects of the coronavirus and the law they're introducing, which is Save Our Streets, which I explained about it. You could look it up online, but it's more of saving local businesses, and I believe the incentive, I think it starts for $250 million. I'm not sure about the exact amount, but you can look it up. But I think it's a great plan because a lot of small businesses do derive in local urban neighborhoods, especially where I'm from in Harlem. It's a lot of small businesses, and they could really use that help. So I think it's great. Overall, with all the analysis that I had to cover today, because I am a little longer than usual, because I usually last 20 minutes, and I believe I last 32 minutes, I can honestly say that there's going to be more stuff going on in this whole entire year. This year feels long. And it feels long because most of us has been in the house. We haven't been really out celebrating our friends, celebrating our birthdays for those who were born in the spring, seeing our parents, going to church, doing our regular leisure thing, going inside the workplace because we have been quarantined in the house. And being quarantined may sound like it's sucky, but you realize how many things you could get accomplished at home. I know I'm working out at home. I'm doing these videos at home. Of course, I'm seeking jobs at home. I'm trying to remodel my house at home. There's still little things I need to clean up. Like I need to vacuum again. I need to clean my bathroom again. Clean my kitchen again because that's an ongoing process. Give away some clothes. So it's always some remodeling to be done, right? But the thing is, a way of remodeling is just to, you know, I guess, let's look at it this way. There's always something to be done. So let's all remember that. So if you see something that's out of place in your house, do something in your house. You can even work out outside as long as you have a mask. The thing is, like, we may be alone, but we're all in this together. So let's not lose sight of that. We can still talk to our loved ones on the phone. And we can still communicate with them. So henceforth, I say, stay strong and hang in there. Be blessed.